Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to What You're Craving. Molly here. December 29th. I was in a meeting and I said this thing to my team. I said, just January 1st is the most dangerous day of the year. And they said, you got to do a podcast about that. You got to do a podcast about that. So here I am, December 29th. And I'm not sitting here talking about New Year, New You. I will not subscribe to that. I'm here fighting against diet culture, screaming it from the mountaintops. January 1st, most dangerous day of the year for those of us who struggle in our relationship with food, for those of us who are vulnerable to that diet culture, to that intermittent reinforcement, to that, wait, just maybe this thing will work. Wait, maybe this will be the thing. Wait, maybe this will be, you know what I mean? Like I'm going to do what I can to help us not get caught in that. That's what I'm here for, because as I've been saying in these last few months, the thing I really find fascinating, and I don't know who contributed to this. I don't know if I don't know if like Santa Claus and the Halloween pumpkin like are getting paid off by diet culture. Like, I don't know how it all goes down. I'm not an anthropologist, but maybe I should meet one. But somehow it's like there's this push that it's like great to binge, treat yourself, it's just a little, all starting October 31st, getting worse and worse and worse as the holiday season goes on. In 2 nights, there's your great excuse to just drink and be merry and all the champagne of it, because January 1, we can start over, right? Whew. I also think starting over is a terribly toxic idea. But you know me, I don't think in diet terms. I think in relationship terms. And I'm unfamiliar, but I don't think that there's any relationship that you're in that says, hey, Gen 1, we get a refresh, right? Or like at work, when it's like review time, they're like, you know what? Just start over. Forget everything we're saying, let's just start over. So I think it's super toxic. The other thing I think about it, I mean, obviously I think it's toxic, but to be honest, I think the lore of it, the idea that we think that we can start over, like that's really the most toxic piece of it. That's the intermittent reinforcement of it, right? That's the idea, the intermittent reinforcement, which is that every now and then you'll get a little bit of a high, or you'll get the desired result from something that you constantly get let down by. Intermittent reinforcement is like the core value of abusive relationships, right? Like you're in this abusive relationship, you're being terribly abused. You may even be like ready to leave, ready to break up, ready to something. And all of a sudden, the relationship will do something that you've been waiting for it to do. It will buy you flowers. It will give you a bonus. It will stop hurting you. And you'll say, oh, you know what, maybe I'm okay here. And that's what diets are all about. But Jan 1 sells it like a mofo. And now there's all these like, I'm sure, because I don't think I'm the only person saying this. So what I know is like, when we start to get the sniff of it, they just change it a little bit, and package it in a diet in a different way. And perhaps I'll do another podcast another day on why breaking up with sugar is not a diet if you do it right. I mean, certainly breaking up with sugar could be a totally restrictive diet, but not the way that I'm talking about it. I just want to say that out there because I would hate for you to be, I get real cynical when I listen to people. And if I was listening, there's a part of me be like, this girl touts to not eat sugar and then she tells us to not diet. But I don't tout breaking up with sugar for weight loss. I tout breaking up sugar if you're in an abusive relationship with sugar. You know what I mean? I tout that. And then I tout us really being able to take care of ourselves in this like really authentic way. And a lot of times for those of us who have really, really struggled with food and have done it for a really long time, there's a real endocrine issue and there's a real nervous system issue. And that's where breaking up with sugar can be super helpful. I know it's been helpful for me. I know it's been helpful for thousands and thousands of people I've treated. And that being said, it's not helpful for everybody, which is why this thing is so fluffin' complicated. Am I right? Because it's like, we really need to be able to tap into our internal resources and our own wisdom. And when we're being corrupted by all of these quick fixes, fast this, victim shaming that, you're the problem this, coaching that, like I can't, it makes my head hurt. So I want to talk to you about really decreasing your vulnerability when it's really coming on time that you are about to be the prey of diet culture, the prey of diet culture. And that's true, right? It's the perfect trap. We're conditioned to declare these holidays the free for all, right? And January 1, it's time for boot camp, and by the way, none of this punishing stuff works. Like, try it as long as you need to. I'm just on the other side of it. Like, none of this punishing, go big, go home, go hard stuff. Really, it might work short term, but fear is never a very good long-term motivator, right? Neither is abuse. It's not a very good long-term motivator either, right? But the problem is that we've been so oriented to believing it. The cycle is so normal. We don't even think twice about what we're being sold. Like, we're the problem. Like, it should be easy, quick fix, cleanse this, 30 days that, none of that is long-term. And, you're welcome to do a short-term thing. It's so funny. I was in a group when we were talking about diet culture, talking about divorcing dieting, which is really all I'm ever talking about these days. And this one woman's in the group, and she is like in really nice recovery. She's in a really beautiful relationship with food. And she says this thing. She says, Molly, it's so crazy. We're sitting here, we're talking about the evils of diet culture. And all I'm thinking is, well, maybe I could just do a quick 2-week cleanse and get a little bit of weight off. And then I'll go back to my loving relationship with food. And I'm like, ain't that the story? Like, ain't that the story, Donna? And I want you to know that, because it's not moral. Like, like, it's advertising, and it's really expensive, well-researched advertising, So just know that you're vulnerable to it. Don't pretend like you're not vulnerable to it. Knowing you're vulnerable to it actually makes you much more in control and in power of the narrative of how your 2022 is going to look. God, after all this COVID, I forgot what year it was. I had to take a moment. What year are we in? But anyway, listen, if you deal with a questioning relationship with food, if you're in an abusive relationship with food, if you're healing your relationship with food, you need to be aware that January 1st is it's not just unhelpful. It's actually really dangerous, right? Because when we get to, if we're going to engage in this group think of starting over, doing better, trying again, none of those words are long-term relationship words, by the way, because here's the deal. This is true. We get to day 3 of our January 1 diet. We break a promise to ourselves. It reinforces that we're terrible, or that we can't do it, or we're hopeless, or whatever it is that, your fear is trying to get you to believe, we have to know that most diets are not set up for success, and worse than that, take a note on this. Not only are they not set up for success, but they're set up to convince us that we're the problem, not the setup of that diet. And so we get locked in to this really abusive relationship with diets, with diet culture, with diet practitioners, to believe that we're the problem. And when we're really believing that we're the problem, number one, we're protecting our abuser, and we're really, really likely to go back, because we're saying, oh, I did something wrong. And if I just go back and try that program one more time, if I just journal a little bit harder, if I just get that one extra part of her program, then I'll be able to do it. That may be true, but it also may not be true. The thing I really want you to be doing is trying to get clear inside yourself so that you can tap into your wisdom, so that even if you're trying new things, you're not trying it at the mercy of whoever's helping you. You're doing it in a curious way to see if this kind of help works for you, and what might work and what doesn't work. Because the truth is, practice makes progress. Like, in a way, there's this wonderful thing that there's sort of a lot of research about what works, and there's no real research that says that one thing works for everybody. So there's an opportunity here to get to know yourself differently. But if you're doing this at the mercy of diet culture, if you're doing this, giving all of your power to the people who are helping you, and maybe not even researching very well the people who are helping you, then we're really in trouble, right? I remember, listen, as I say, I'm not just the hair club president. I remember so well, I am a recovering January 1st junkie. I mean, beyond the shadow of a doubt, I am a January 1st junkie. I loved it. I loved the idea of a new start. I loved the idea that everybody was doing it with me. I remember sometimes I'd be at the gym and they would make a joke and they'd say, well, we won't see any of you in February. And I'd say, you're going to see me in February. And of course, they didn't even see me by the second week in January, right? Because I really was picking things that didn't support the level of help that I needed. I was hoping it was a quick fix. I wasn't even interested in February, to be honest with you. And then I hit my first real bottom. Well, probably like my third bottom, if I'm being honest. And I remember, because I was really in the depths of my eating disorder and my other addictions. All of my friends were like, I think they were going to Miami or something, I forget. And I just had this thought, like, I might literally die if I go to Miami, or I'll just be like suicidally depressed in my hotel room. And that does not feel fun to me. So for some reason, I decided I would go to Outward Bound. This is a true story. I decided, I'll go to Outward Bound for New Year's. And I went on this kayaking trip in Exuma, Bahamas. And it was the first New Year's that, what they did, they actually put us on these little solos alone on a little island in Exuma, Bahamas. And they gave us a paper and pen, and they asked us to write a letter to ourselves. Oddly enough, in programs that I now run, I always have people do this exercise. It's a wonderful exercise, and it's really anti-diet as I think about it. So anyway, they ask us on December 31st, or maybe it was January 1st, they ask us to write a letter to ourselves. And I was in a really gnarly space in my whole life at that point. And I remember sitting on this desert island, and I wrote this letter to myself. And I'm a bit of a control freak, so it probably had like PowerPoint slides and like 5 nice points. And I remember, because it was about my relationships, and it was about my food, and it was about my drinking, and it was about how much I hated myself and these hopes that I had for myself in the coming year. But here's where it went different. At the end of this journey, the leaders of Outward Bound said, hey, if you guys want us to, we can send you these letters in 6 months. Just, get an envelope and give it to us. And for some reason, I did it. This is what I remember. And I had this thought to myself that said, I'm going to give them this letter, and I may not be done with these goals, with these concerns. They may not be over. They were pretty enormous concerns, but I made this promise to myself, and I said, but I will be on the road towards healing. That's what I mean. That's the promise I made to myself. And when I got home, I knew that letter was coming. And I remember I got myself a new therapist. I found someone to help me with my eating. I started to be more regular at my eating disorder groups. I just started to take little steps towards healing, because that's the promise I made to myself. And it was amazing, because in 6 months, when I got that letter, it was the first time I didn't feel shame. Like, my relationships weren't healed. My eating disorder wasn't healed. My addiction wasn't healed, but I was actually taking an interest in my life, and I was moving towards my goals. And it's a pivotal story in my life, because it's sort of the first time that I did something I knew I could do. I followed through with something, but the follow through wasn't as like, I'm going to buy these shakes and do them for 5 days. This follow through is very intimate. It had a lot of integrity, and there wasn't such like an absolute endpoint. It's very consistent with what I talk about today, which is, hold on a second. I actually have to edit this. I'm really sorry. Values. Yeah. Which is deciding, on what sort of values you want to be having, and then having your guiding values be what makes your decisions with you. And I don't think I had that exact thought. I was really, my brain was really messy at that point. But I think that's what I was doing. I was deciding I wanted to live with more integrity. I was deciding I wanted to have more love in my life. And I think I decided I wanted to get more honest. And I started to move my compass towards those three values. And it really worked because I'm telling you, I think by that October, I was broken up with sugar. It didn't happen all at once. Let me tell you that about change too, my friends. It isn't bippity boppity boo. If it was, I would be out of a job. Change is pretty progressive for many of us. I mean, sometimes they talk about this in Alcoholics Anonymous. They talk about the sort of spiritual awakening of like the educational variety, the spiritual experience, like that it sort of just happens over time. That is so anti-diet culture. Am I right? I mean, that it's just sort of like it falls over you, more like a snowfall rather than a hailstorm. And that's what happened for me. So let's plan how we can make this year different for you. Please, 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 please. I'm so about us starting to take our power back from diet culture and from any other thing you've given your power to, by the way, right? But especially here, 29th of December, moving into Jan 1, like what can you do differently? I'm going to give you some tangible ideas because that's what I'm here for. I am here to help. First things first, today, right now, put it on pause. Notice the traps that you fall into. Know what gets you all googly-eyed. I'll tell you, for me, you tell me something about changing my belly fat, and I am educated at this. I help people for a living at this. I know the innards of the diet culture, and still in the right vulnerable space, if you promise me you can take my belly fat away, I may give you my soul. I may give you my social security number. I mean, but knowing that I'm vulnerable to that actually allows me to red flag it, to bright line it, to say, oh, I don't look at belly fat on days I'm feeling vulnerable. Promise you that. You know what I mean? And just also know the traps that exist for you, right? Like, healthy choice, right? Like quick results, shortcuts, 7 days. I love 7-day things because no one's ever talking about day 8. And, love me some blind spots and love me some dissonance. Our people are promising 7 days. The brain doesn't like to think about hard things or bad things. So our brain's like, cool, 7 days, count me in. But no one's ever talking about what to do on day 8. And frankly, if you're thinking about sugar as an addiction, which some of us really are and really buy into that, doing a 7-day no sugar challenge progresses the disease on day 8 if you go back. Just side note, if that's for you, that's for you. Take what you want and leave the rest, And the other thing, which I've seen so many times with people, be mindful of engaging in diets or programs or whatever word we're using these days. I don't think anybody's promising a diet anymore. I think people are definitely smart enough. Marketers are definitely smart enough for that. Programs, challenges, blah, 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 that don't feel aligned with your values or your goals, or with leaders that are bullying you and shaming you and telling you that you're the problem or you're not doing enough and not giving you another response or not teaching you how to do more. Just try to key in. It's really hard when you're at the mercy of people telling you you're not enough and you're also feeling like you're not enough to be able to crack that code and say, oh my God, that's them victim shaming me. I mean, they sort of do have us by the BALLS sometimes. But even if you're 5 days into that program and you wake up, get out. Even if you spent a lot of money, think about getting out. There's no amount of money worth your dignity and your soul. I promise. And also write them an email and tell them how you feel, because maybe they'll have a moment where they can heal and maybe that they can change too. I mean, we're just going to all try our best all the time. How about making a plan of what you're going to do January 1st? Because it is really vulnerable. And if you're used to having a big start over party, you have to replace that with something equally fun. Do you know what I mean? So like, who are you going to be with Jan 1? What are you going to do? What kind of fun things are you going to do to celebrate life? What kind of insightful things or intimate things are you going to do to sort of think about what you want the year to look like? Or what kind of things are you going to do to ignore the whole thing? But maybe just make a plan for Jan 1 so you're not vulnerable to scrolling through Instagram, which is just going to be doing nothing but telling you how much you need to be different. I don't think you need to be different. And if you're really susceptible to diets, I might make a little plan. I love a plan. I might make a little plan for like how you're going to not go near the diets, right? Like, I love an anti-diet buddy. I might say, I already did tell my team because I had a little hiccup with maybe wanting to do a little diet. I told my team because I think it's fascinating when I do things like that. I have to say, I never think these things are moral. And I'm like, wow, I wonder what's going on with me that I just wanted to do that thing. That you want to tell your power circle that you are committed to not dieting, like that you're not going to get in one of these quick fix cycles because you don't want to untangle it. If you don't get tangled up, you don't have to untangle. Know what I mean? And really getting clear about your values and your goals, right? There's always something bigger than the food to commit to, than the new diet. There's like thinking about, instead of this new start for like your food or your weight, if you're feeling like you need a little freshening, I love that. And Jan 1's a great time to do it. By the way, Jan 8's a great time to do it. March 2nd's a great day to do it. Like every day is a great day to have a little refresh, transparently. I'm having a little retreat. I mean, you're obviously welcome. But the reason I'm having a retreat in January online is just so I can have something for people to come to, because everybody's such a Jan 1 addict. So at least I know, like, I can control the narrative there, and we can just be talking about how to get ourselves really feeling spiritually squared away to go into the new year and do some dancing and have fun. But no promise of a program, no telling you you're a bad person, or, promising you that everything's going to be great in the next 30 days. Maybe it will be. I don't know. You just can't make promises like that, And, I do love a little letter to yourself. I do love a little letter to yourself. But again, I love a letter to yourself on August 21st, on November 1st. I mean, there's never a bad day to do a little refresh, check-in, inventory situation, refurbishing of my values. There's never a bad day to do it. And if you want to be with all the cool kids, I love that, in Breaking Up a Sugar, the book I wrote, and there's a chapter called Divorcing Dieting. And there's this great line in it. I tell you, it's a great line because I actually didn't write it. Laurel Mercer, who is on my team, wrote it. It's just so brilliant. And it says, you can be so convinced that like sugar is the problem and I'm done with dieting and this is a relationship I want to be in, until the office pool for the weight. All my friends are going on the 30-day challenge, right? Like, because there is something so familiar and so competitive and so exciting about Jan 1. So if you need to go with the flow of Jan 1, I get it. Can you just go with the flow a little bit differently? Do you know what I mean? Can you just be in it in a way that isn't going to come back and harm you? And worse than that, come back and reinforce all of your diet drama and trauma. To me, 2021 is about getting rid of the diet drama and trauma, healing. Let that start on January 1. You deserve that if you deserve anything, And in that way, be connected with people who you feel loved and supported by, right? Like when we go in with a plan, like if you're just going to say like, well, yeah, Molly, like I'm a Jan 1 junkie too. Bye. I'll try my best on Jan 1. Like, I got to tell you, that's adorable that you think that your willpower is stronger than that of diet culture. I don't think so. But if you go in with some kind of plan, I don't know what it is. It can be all of these ideas. It can just be like having a really loving day. It can be like participating in like, I don't know, some dream boards with your friends. It can be whatever it is, as long as it's not reinforcing this not enoughness and this need to be fixed come Jan 1, because that's where they get us. It is. And it's really like, and especially, my love, especially if you've had a rough and tumble Bermuda Triangle. I call Bermuda Triangle the Halloween, Thanksgiving, Hanukkah, like Christmas. That's what I call this time of year, because it's so easy to get lost. I mean, especially if you're in the camp of somebody who has been really tortured during this time, right? By binging, by having really hard family times, by being out of alignment with what you want to be doing with your food, you're actually the most vulnerable right now. You're who they want to get. You are their target audience. And you're who I really am begging you to make some kind of plan to help to nurture that vulnerability towards something that will help you to heal, not something that is dying to get you back into that cycle, right? Of promise of a diet, try the diet, can't do the diet, fail at the diet, hate yourself, find it again, try another one, think you're the problem, give someone extra money, like the whole nine of it, which, by the way, really ends up with us feeling completely hopeless, unhelpable, and unlovable. I am so uninterested in that. We are so complete with that. We are so complete with that energy, my friend. But the problem is that we don't go in with some kind of plan. We're bound to do it the same way. That is Jan 1 is the well-worn snow groove, right? Because there's such a high to starting over with billions of people. I'm not saying you can't start over. I hate that term. I do love a refresh idea. I do love like a refocus. I do love a reorg. You don't need to start over. You're amazing, like exactly as you are, And I was thinking about this the other day about my own path. Like every time I've had a bottom, I've been able to rise from it, learn from it, grow from it, help others from it. Like we have to really be reframing this idea of failure. I despise that word. I cannot even believe I said it on a podcast, but like, you got to get that out of the vocabulary. I don't even demand things. I only suggest things with you, but this one, I'm like coming as close to demanding as I will. It's never a failure if you're open to learning from it. I can tell you any slip, bottom, mistake, harmful act towards myself, if I've made the decision to learn and grow and heal from it, best decision I ever made or ever unconsciously made. And I want you to think about that, because I think at the end of this, when it comes to healing your relationship with food, especially if healing your relationship with food has been a really long process, I think it really is about committing to never, ever giving up on yourself. You can't restart if you're committed to never giving up on yourself. There is no restart button. There's just take a right, take a left, meet this person, try this. And there's a gentleness to it and a loving nature to it that I think can really change the game for you. And you deserve that. You deserve to never have to play this like start over failure game. It's so old. It's so done with it. Do you want to be done with it with me? That's going to be my New Year's present to you. We have a beautiful year coming up. We have a beautiful year on what you're craving. So excited. I'm so excited to get to be a part of your life. I'm so excited to come into 2022 with you. I'm just excited for it all. So no more restarts, right? We're not buying into Jan 1 in the way that we used to. You can buy in a little bit. I get it. I probably will too. But we're going to be together every step of the way. We do this together, right? We do this imperfectly. We do this together. We do this with open hearts and lots of hope. I believe in you with all my heart and soul. Happy New Year, fam of what you're craving. Sending you lots and lots of love today and every day.